Hey everyone, my name is Robert Smith. Welcome to our very first episode of Upstate Real Producers Beyond the Pages. I'm your host, and today I had the pleasure of highlighting one of our very own top real estate professionals in the Upstate. With this podcast, we really want to take the time to highlight not just the performance, things that they do in the community, how they're shaping the Upstate market. So, our very first guest is someone who truly embodies excellence in real estate here in the Upstate, a Greenville native. And before I jump into her real estate, she's worked for nearly a decade as a physician assistant. She's been #1 volume producing agent in the Greater Greenville Association of Realtors in 2018, 2020, 2021, and 2023, and more than 500 homes sold in her career, averaging around 100 home sales in the last 3 years, and a typical sales price that's over $700,000 in the last 3 years. Outside of real estate, she is deeply involved in the community, serving in the Neighborhood Cancer Connection, National Charity League, Greenville Women's Giving, and CCS Build for the Future campaign. She's known not only for her numbers, but for being incredibly responsive, client-focused, and genuinely caring. Everyone, Blair Miller, real estate professional at Wilson Associates.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And Blair, before we kind of get into this, I reached out to a couple of your colleagues.
Oh, gosh.
And I just said, hey, share a couple sentences about Blair and what kind of embodies her. So I reached out to Nick Carlson, one of your brokers over at Wilson Associates, and he said, not a sentence, a word, consistent. And I think that's very much true. Mm-hmm. Another one of your colleagues, John Armstrong, and he said, Blair outworks everyone around her. In her league of her own, it's really that simple. Then I reached out to someone who got you into this business, and I think this would mean a lot to you, Sharon Wilson. She said, Blair is one of those rare agents who stays professional at all times and truly cares about each of her clients. She listens to their wants and needs, and she will not stop until she finds that perfect house. Blair is a true pleasure to work with and has a respect of all the agents and clients she works with. So Blair,
very kind.
We have you here. And first I want to just kind of dive in a little bit and I want you to tell a little bit about your story. So you had a successful career in medicine. What kind of made you take that leap into the real estate profession?
It's a great question and one that I get very often. It's not a simple answer because honestly, if there were 60 hours in the day, I would still be able to practice medicine as well. I didn't leave the medical field because I didn't like it or there was some negative reason. I actually loved every bit of being a PA and working in vascular surgery at Prisma. But for me, there were a couple of things that just in my personal life, I was married, I had 2 young children. At the time, I did not take call, but I did have a very strict schedule where I had patients and there was no kind of deviating from those schedules. At the time, I just had a really strong interest in real estate and would call my friends and say, hey, just letting you know this house is coming on the market or this person's looking for a house. It was fun for me to play that kind of matchmaker game. And then when I found out that my current broker in charge was going to be opening her own company, I decided to get my real estate license and just kind of see how that went. And got my license. And then it was like, well, now what are you going to do? You got to do something with it. So initially, I kind of dipped my toes into real estate. I mean, within 3 months, quickly realized it was going to be an either or situation. For me, between my husband and I and our children, we decided that real estate was going to offer a more flexible career for me, although the truth is I work way more selling real estate than I did as a PA. As a PA, I just had set hours and I didn't take call. So the truth is it just came down to flexibility and what was right for me and for my family. I absolutely love real estate. My heart is actually in both places. I do continue to keep my license up as a PA, and currently this year I'm taking my boards. So we'll see how that goes. But I absolutely love real estate, and there's actually a lot of overlap between the two professions. It all goes back to compassion, to customer service, helping people through the good and the bad, and understanding how to navigate those situations. And I couldn't love more about the position that I'm in right now.
So how, like, you kind of put a correlation there. Obviously, you were a physician assistant first, and you got your license. How has that overlapped? Blair, you're one of the top realtors in the Upstate, and not just the Upstate, in South Carolina. How have you took part of being a physician assistant into the realtor world to, be one of the top realtors in the state?
So I think it's a lot about listening. It's a lot about communication. For me, I do work with a good many of the medical community. So I'm able to have those same conversations and feel like I'm somewhat connected in the medical world still. But it really just goes back to understanding that, people get presented with good things and with bad things, and helping them along the way navigate those situations. Same thing in medicine, same thing in real estate. Some are unexpected, some are planned. And that's kind of been where the worlds have collided for me. But again, it does go back to customer service and compassion, where in either profession, those are paramount.
So as I already mentioned, you've been one of the top realtors in GJR MLS pretty much since you started. What are some of those things that you think that has allowed you to kind of like separate yourself just a little bit more?
So to go back to what Nick said, which was very kind, but also I think very true, as consistency. Consistency in everything that you do, showing up for work each day, ready to take on the day, and actually being excited about it. Not dreading your work day, actually enjoying the work that you do, because I think that transfers into what other people see. So that, along with communication, treating people the way that you want to be treated, and when you set expectations, do what you say you're going to do. I think that actually will set many people apart from other colleagues and peers in any profession. But I think it starts with that. And then I think consistency. It doesn't have to be the same process for each agent or for each home buyer, but as long as you remain consistent, people know what to expect from you, that helps bring a lot of the success.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this before we were on camera, just showing up, just being consistent, just doing your best.
Yeah.
And I kind of love, we were talking a little bit and you kind of shared a story that you don't really set goals.
Yeah.
And I love that, because a lot of times people ask me, like, what are your goals? And like, when I hit my pillow at night, did I do my best?
Right.
So so you don't set any goals at all?
So it's not that there are no goals. It's for me, I'm competitive with myself. So like I mentioned to you before we came on this podcast, I stay in my lane. I'm worried about what Blair Miller's doing, what Blair Miller's providing for her clients and her customers. And I'm not worried with the quote outside noise. For me, I'm competitive with myself. Like you said, did I do the best that I could today? Did I handle the situation the best way that I could have? What could I have done differently? Like, how can I learn from this? And I think that has allowed me to focus on myself and make myself a better person and not worry about what other people are doing.
So just like me, there's got to be something in your heart, Blair, that just pumps. Why do you do it? Like, what ultimately gets you out of the bed?
Yep.
Like, who? I know you're pushing for your clients, but outside of your clients, like, what's your why?
So my why is I genuinely enjoy helping people. I love to problem solve. I love to be the one that, just as in medicine, you've got to stay calm, cool, and collected, even when there's an emergency or an urgency. And the ability to make important decisions when something like that happens and stay level-headed makes all the difference in the world. And so I love to be that person that can come in and, you may get a phone call from a lender that says, oh, we've gotten this terrible appraisal. Okay, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to handle this? Let's make a path forward. Let's make a plan and go that direction. I think every day is a different day, which for me, it's nice that you don't wake up and do the same thing each day, but it's about problem solving. It's about helping people get to that finish line.
Yeah, I remember when I was talking to your broker in charge, Nick, and he even said, I think Blair doesn't even realize she's an example not only to the other associates here, but even to her family. Like, you give them so much drive to be the absolute best, but not competing against anybody else, like truly competing against themselves. And that's what I've noticed with you. You're every day, how can I be the best version of myself? How can I be just 1% better? You're not trying to get 10%, 12%. Right. It's just going out, just pounding the pavement and just delivering your best to it. So, and one of the things I also love about your best, it's not just in real estate. You're a big part of giving to the local community. You're involved in several different things. Do you want to talk about some of those?
Well, I was born and raised in Greenville, so I am a little bit partial to this area, and I've definitely seen it grow and change for the better, in my opinion. I think everybody agrees with that. But it's so important to give back to our community. I mean, our community has given me, my family so much, and I think that's very important. I think it's great for all of us to know that, we are all in a position where we can help other people, regardless of what our situation is. And so, Neighborhood Cancer Connection, formerly Cancer Society of Greenville County, is an organization that's near and dear to my heart. And we just recently completed a capital campaign and built a new building on Mills Avenue that's amazing. Wow. And Greenville Women Giving is another organization that I just joined last year. So I'm getting my feet wet with that organization, but it's an organization that I believe in that gives back to the community as well. So I'm looking forward to getting involved with that organization. Another one is called National Charity League, and it's new to the area, but it's a mother-daughter organization that helps our daughters learn leadership skills, organizational skills, and also philanthropic and volunteering skills. And it's just been a really great organization that gives back in so many ways.
And I love that you stated that stuff, because I hear a lot of times Blair is busy, but it's not just Blair's busy with work. You're busy with serving and giving your time to help people, whether they're fortunate or less fortunate as well. Right. So it's not, hey, I'm just out selling real estate, 24/7.
Right.
I remember even talking to John Armstrong one time. He said, I don't think Blair sleeps. So I love that you have that servant's heart. Right. What pushes you just to keep finding different ways to serve? You just said you were involved in 15 different things.
Well, the organization National Charity League is affiliated with like 15 or so different organizations. So we can volunteer, whether it's Meals on Wheels, whether it's Project Host or Trees Greenville, all these different organizations that we can all volunteer.
Good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you're a Greenville native. I think that we live in one of the best places in the world, if not the best place. I mean, we have the mountains, we have lakes, we have, major cities next to us that's, 2 hours or less. What do you think just makes Greenville so special outside of the things that I just named?
I think Greenville, I always call it a little big town. We've grown, obviously, but I think we've grown, and our city and community leaders have done a really good job of growing in a healthy way, I always say. We have controlled growth and development, but we are still growing and developing. I think that Greenville has something for everyone. Whether you're into the arts community and you want to go to, the open studios or the Artisphere, or if you're active and you want to cycle and you want to go on this fun private trail, you've got those options. We've got so many, Heritage Green with all of the museums. I mean, we just have something for everyone. And I even find myself, even though I'm very familiar with Greenville, I'll be downtown and I'll drive by something and I'm like, whoa, what is that? When did we get that? That's super cool that we have that.
All the things that even you go downtown Greenville, there's always something going on.
There's such neat little towns that you don't have to just be in downtown Greenville. And I think that's also part of the draw. There's, depending on if you're wanting to be closer to Paris Mountain or the foothills, you've got Downtown Travelers Rest, which is amazing, or Simpsonville, Greer, and now Malden. I think, Malden's definitely going to be growing a lot in the next 5 years.
Yeah, and I've always told people, I'm from the Charleston area, and I love Charleston still, but it's up against the ocean.
Yeah.
So you got one way in, one way out. And I think what people really love around this area is you have downtown Greenville, but there's so many things on the outside. But
Exactly.
you could be in Clemson and be in downtown Greenville in 30, 40 minutes and
That's
still
right.
enjoy that as well. So I do think it's a special place just like yourself. And what are some of the changes that you have seen over the years? Like, I've heard the stories. I'm not from Greenville. I heard that 25 years ago, you couldn't catch someone downtown Greenville.
Yeah.
What about those changes?
So that's very true. I can actually still remember coming up Broad Street and driving across Main Street where the Peace Center is and looking over to the right and the Westin Poinsett was abandoned. I remember when the Peace Center was built, and I can remember my parents saying, well, who's going to go to that? You know, I mean, what's going to come and who's going to go kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. The baseball stadium is, they're very key in the growth of downtown Greenville. And I think that's brought a lot of people to the area as well.
Yeah. And so with that being said, things are always changing in real estate. This area is constantly changing. How do you help your clients navigate all those changes? I went through the home buying experience. It is not easy. I think I read it's one of the top 5 stressors in your life. What do you do to kind of like keep your clients in the know, but not so much in the know to they're panicking and worrying?
Right.
Obviously, you're excellent at what you're doing, but you still can't control everything. What's kind of like your take on helping your clients just be good?
So I think to start off with, I listen. And I think listening, understanding what your clients are wanting, what they're needing, even though that may morph over time into something else, making sure they understand that they've got someone who's listening to them. And then from there, give them options. Say, well, if this is what you're wanting or needing, maybe this is an area or something that you should consider. I always tell people it never hurts to look at too many homes. It's, you should never feel like you look at one house and you have to make a decision right away. It's just as good to look at a home that you're not really in favor of as it is to look at a home that you think checks all the boxes per se. Kind of like trying on clothes. Sometimes you try something on and you don't think you'll like it, but then you try it on and you're like, wow, I actually really like it. And so, a lot of times when people move to Greenville, they think they know the area well and they think they know what they want. But when they actually get here and they're able to see traffic patterns, where they're going to spend most of their time, what kind of home they want, what kind of neighborhood they want, it does change. And that's okay. And I think that's one of the things that I tell my clients. It's okay for what you start thinking you want to change over time.
And I'm just kind of curious, what's the most homes you ever showed to one client?
I think the most, it was 18 or 19 in one day.
Wow, one day?
And that was back when we had 18 or 19 homes to show. I mean, that inventory, we are getting more inventory, so it's going to start probably getting back to that point. But yes, prior to COVID, I had quite a few back-to-back out-of-town clients who came just for the day, had to find something, and it was 18 or 19 homes. It was a long day.
So when you're going through that process, do you see any of your clients just kind of get discouraged?
I actually have never felt discouraged. The only thing that I have ever felt semi-discouraged about would be if a couple was looking and they couldn't get on the same page. It had nothing to do with actually finding the home, but them understanding what they actually want and then them getting along, because I can't change that. It's more them kind of working through their personal wants and desires and that kind of thing. But overall, to me, I mean, it's one of the biggest decisions of your life. It's one of the biggest financial commitments you'll ever make. And so I think it's hard to say it could be discouraging. I do think during COVID, when our inventory was less than a month's supply, the discouraging part was just we didn't have inventory to show people. And it wasn't that we weren't trying to help people or trying to look for inventory. It's just it actually was not there. That is kind of remedying itself right now. We're seeing more inventory, of course, especially new construction. So I think we'll see less and less of that. But still, that probably was the most discouraging thing during COVID, was just no inventory.
And say if I came to you and I said, I'm looking to sell my house. what are some of the things you'll tell me immediately what we need to do to try to get the best market value?
So while I think, getting the best price and the best terms is very important, and I don't argue with that. But one thing that I think sellers don't hear enough is, how would you like to see this play out? What works for you? What is your timeline? Because everybody's different. Everybody's not, I have to sell it immediately. Or, some people say, well, ideally, I'd like to be able to close in 45 days, or ideally, I'd like to close in 4 months. So everybody's kind of different. And I think it's not so much coming in and telling somebody what they're going to do, although I'm happy to offer advice, of course, but it's also listening to them of what's going to work for them just as much as it is anything else.
Nice. And if you had to say you're meeting Blair from 20 years ago, what would you...
How was that? Okay, yes, I know where I was 20 years ago. Yeah.
What would you tell her?
You still have so many big decisions to make. You still have so much life to live. And, for folks who are in college or in graduate school, I kind of say the world is your oyster. Like, that is the time to explore, to dream big. And I feel like when we were going to college, it was very much, you've got to know your major, stick to it, and don't deviate. And it's just not true. So many people graduate from college and they completely change, and you can be tremendously successful even if you switch, after the fact. So for me, that was when I was switching from my medical career to real estate. It was scary. You don't know how things are going to turn out. And
it's completely 360.
Totally different. But I love it, and I'm glad I made that decision. So.
And you mentioned Clemson University.
Uh-huh.
I played ball there. You went there. Let's talk about that decision a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why Clemson?
It's the best school. I think Clemson, it's a beautiful campus, first of all. Second of all, I think it offers students such a well-rounded experience. Academics are important. Athletics are important. I was involved in student government. So it was kind of a work hard, play hard environment that, you had so many opportunities to just do anything and everything you wanted to do. And I just think it's a well-rounded institution that also, if you stay local, the connections.
Oh my God.
Almost every week you run into somebody and you're like, oh, I graduated from Clemson in 2021. And you're like, wow, I'm gonna get a bit older than you. But it's an amazing school.
If you had to explain just your personality, what would you say? Like, if somebody said, I want to talk to Blair, I want to get to know them, just share some of those things just about you.
So I actually, and I think part of this is my medical career. I love teaching. I'm happy to, even in our office, people will say, hey, do you have just a minute? And I'm always like, sure.
Mm-hmm.
How can I help? I don't know all the answers. We're all learning every day. And that is very true. And I think that for me, I'm very approachable. I'm always going to be willing to help answer questions or help however I can. I am pretty organized. I don't know if you would say OCD, but I'm bordering that. But I do like to have a schedule. I do like consistency. I do have, each day I have a certain way that I do things. At the end of the day, I do not go to bed before my work is done. Because for me, I know that the next day brings new challenges, or I should say opportunities. Mm-hmm. And if I haven't finished my day's work, then that just adds onto it all. In real estate, time is of the essence in so many different ways. And so the sooner that we jump on things, the better usually the outcome. I'm organized, I'm responsible, I am dependable. I'm also a very trustworthy, my friends call me a vault. So I don't discuss, clients and client information, even with my family members. To me, it's up to my clients for them to give out, that they're purchasing a house or that they're selling their house. And for me, that makes it easy. If I don't ever say information, then I don't have to worry about, what's been said or should not have been said and that kind of thing. So there are a lot of people who come to me to confide in me because they know I'm not going to say something that they don't want me to say.
Yeah. And I can attest to that at Blair. Like, I remember I first met with Nick.
Uh-huh.
And we were getting ready to do his article.
Uh-huh.
And he said, have you talked to Blair yet? I was like, oh, well, I know she's really busy. He was like, I'm going to give you her number right now, and Blair will find time.
Yeah.
Yes, she is busy, but she will find time, and you'll be surprised the amount of agents that she pour into this office.
Yeah.
So I always say this, if you don't ask questions, you lose out.
That's right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why you've been successful. You will ask questions, and you will find a way for your clients. Just like Sharon said, Blair will find a way for her clients. And then I got another question. If I was a realtor or someone came and said, Blair, I'm looking to be a real estate and I want to try to be as successful as possible, what would the first thing you would tell them? Because you can't start to the top. There's no elevators to success. Like you didn't become the number one person just by like, hey, like, yes, I woke up and I was just at the top. What would you tell them?
So, I think a lot of agents, particularly seasoned agents, get that question a lot. And I think I really try to sit down and have a deep, honest discussion with people to say, on the outside, this is what real estate looks like. But when you're in the daily routine, this is what it's really like. And so, if you get your real estate license, sure, you may have your mom or your dad's friend that you get to list their house right away. But as far as having clients and referrals and that kind of thing, it takes time. It takes hard work. It takes, showing up every day. And it also takes investing in your business. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is how much you have to invest in your business all along the way, but particularly up front, which is hard because if you're not busy initially, you've got to have something on the front end to be able to market and advertise and that kind of thing in order to get your name, your pictures out there. I think some people have this misconception that you put a sign in the yard or you tell one or two friends and then all of a sudden you're busy. You may have a few clients that way, but that's not the constant. I think investing in your business is one thing that people are surprised about how much investment it calls for on the front end. And then also just the legwork. It's, being at the open houses, meeting new potential. Every person that you meet is a potential client. It doesn't matter if they have nothing to do with the house that you're actually selling, but every person you meet is a potential client. And you have to think about it that way.
And with the Upstate being so hot, I'm pretty sure there's buyers from all over. You get some local buyers, you get some people that's from California, probably a lot of people.
Yeah.
How do you handle, is there a different process that you have when it comes to people who are local or people who's out of state? Obviously, they can't be there to see every home or every detail. How do you handle that?
That's a very good point. So that's actually one of the conversations that I have with out of state buyers or any non-local buyers. I mean, even if you lived in Charleston, it's hard to say, hey, this house came on the market. Can you be here in an hour? They can't be. While we saw a good bit of this during COVID where people were buying homes sight unseen, which was not necessarily ideal, but some people they didn't have a choice. But if you're moving here from out of state, particularly if you're not super familiar with our area, you don't know where you're going to be with extracurricular activities. You don't know where your kids may go to school, that kind of thing. I talk to people about the difference between, hey, what are your options for moving here into an apartment or some kind of temporary housing so that, we go from point A to point B to point C, not from point A to point C. We talk through the pros and cons of that versus being in California and having to, you come to one Greenville trip and we have a weekend together and you kind of know the area, but then I call you the following Friday and say, hey, do you remember that street, Smith Street? A house came on the market there. Let me go video it. And then you have to make a decision, but you haven't even seen it in person. So I have found that offering those options for some people who have the ability to make the decision, they choose to sell the home where they're located, move here, then find something. And I can understand because I would be the same way. I would prefer to be in town looking, but not everybody has that luxury to do that. So
I know you're a superwoman and you can do a lot of different things. I think I might already mention this. You don't really have no one underneath you working. And if I'm not mistaken, someone told me you just have your mom that go pick up rider signs every once in a while.
Well, I did. So I do. My mom is a retired teacher, and to get out of the house, she does help me with a few little errands and that kind of thing. She's been a tremendous help. I did recently hire an assistant who she's not interacting directly with clients, but she's helping with paperwork and errands and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's been a really big help. So I've enjoyed having her the last couple of months. I get the question a lot, why don't you hire more people? Why don't you get a team? And my goal is not necessarily to get busier and to, have less time and that kind of thing. I always want to be involved with my clients from start to finish. And if that means that I kind of cap out at a certain area, then that's what that means. Because I don't want to lose touch or for somebody to call me and think that they're working with me and I'm handing them off to somebody else.
Yeah.
There's certain agents who do that, and that business model works very well for them. So I think it's more just a personal preference. For me, I just want to be involved every step of the way. That might be a little control issue, but
and nothing wrong with that.
No.
Obviously, it's working for you.
Right.
We love to say at Real Producers, our slogan is connecting, elevating, inspiring. And part of, we always say that we can move further, faster together. How important it is to have like trusted vendors on your team that can really just help you get the ball to the finish line?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be able to do what I do unless I had that. I mean, you've got to have support staff, support contacts, that kind of thing. And, they are an extension of me. So I better be certain that the people that I'm recommending, the vendors who are helping me, helping my clients, are people that I would have helping myself. So I always tell people, we're required to give multiple names, which we always do. But they're always people that I would use myself because I would never want to recommend someone that, didn't show up or didn't do a good job or that kind of thing.
And trust me, I'm dealing with it. I just did a basement remodel. So I understand getting things done on a timely manner. But what are some of those qualities that you would be looking for in vendors or the vendors that you do work with?
So the first one is communication. The second one would be, showing up when they say they're going to show up.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. That's a very big one. And then the other is, one thing that I've run into in the past is just, I would say, responsible quoting of work.
Yeah.
So people getting estimates on things that are actually legitimate, not, way inflated or not under what they're actually going to be. And then they get to the end of the project and there's like a, 15% increase based on what they had without having any changes. It's different when they add things and change things. Of course, that goes up. But I want the vendors that I use to treat people the way that I would treat people. I don't want them overselling. I don't want them, to provide work that's not something that I would do in my own home.
Yeah, I would say it is so frustrating as a consumer. And this is not related to anybody at all. A painter says they're going to be here today and they don't show up, and things happen. We know that.
Yeah, life happens.
Life happens. But when you don't hear from them, I'll probably say one of my biggest pet peeves when somebody says, well, I'm going to be there and I'll show up anywhere between the time of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I'm like, what are you doing? What about those people who don't work from home? Like, you want to miss a day?
You just set your entire day aside.
Yeah. And then they still don't show up. So I always say relationships matter, but doing what you say you're going to do also matters.
And if you can't do it, then just communicating to say, hey, something has come up. It's actually going to be 6 o'clock or it's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah. And again, when it comes to like just building relationships outside even vendors and with realtors, how important it is to form a relationship with other realtors in the market? I
think relationships are everything. I think that it's easy for us to, as agents, feel like it's agent A versus agent B, and we're doing our best to, represent our client. The reality is you can represent your client well, stay professional, and work together as a team. There is no doubt that you can get more accomplished by working together. And by working together, I mean communicating, being professional, following up, doing what you say you're going to do, and being kind to each other. I think any agent would experience way more success if they adopt that model versus you versus them. Relationships matter. Relationships also get you contracts. I mean, there have been plenty of agents where I've seen where there's multiple offers and the listing agent goes to the seller to say, hey, let's talk through who's representing each buyer. I've had that happen before where people say, hey, this agent knows how to get things done. They're very responsible. They're very responsive. They're great to work with. They're reasonable versus the other agent. So it matters for each agent, but it also matters for their clients.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that somebody kind of steer this person the other way because they had a relationship with that person. They knew that they're going to help get the ball to the finish line.
Yeah.
Versus somebody who they didn't know, because ultimately it's not so much of, hey, I missed on the commission. Like, you're talking about people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's very emotional. So you're trying to do all the things you can do to ensure that we can get to the finish line. And
that's right.
That relationship does matter.
Well, and on another level with relationships, I mean, so much of my focus is what's right for my client. You know, people will ask volume, they'll ask numbers, they'll ask things like that. I can genuinely say that has never once crossed my mind when I'm negotiating an offer, when I'm trying to get something figured out for another client, you know, some issue that's come up. People should not be motivated by that. They should be motivated by doing right by their client and what's best for their client in order to get whatever situation figured out.
Yeah, I love this quote by, give a shout out to Coach Sweeney, do the right thing, not the easy thing.
That's right.
And how you do anything is how you do everything. Do you feel like the clients can feel that relationship or they can feel that tension if something's off between a realtor and another realtor?
I think they absolutely can. Yeah. I mean, it depends on, you know, you try to protect your clients. Obviously, you keep them informed and you keep the transparency there. But, you know, if there's drama or whatever, just try to leave your clients out of that part of it. There's no reason to bring them into something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think they can tell. I mean, when agents are working well together, everything runs a lot more smoothly.
Yeah. And another thing that you mentioned before we got on camera, you mentioned that you stay in your lane.
Uh-huh.
And when you say stay in your lane, and I'm just assuming that you're good at what you're good at, and you try to just always perfect that. Do you have a certain niche that or you sell everywhere or anywhere?
Yeah, it's not everywhere or anywhere. I mean, I will have somebody say, hey, do you sell in this particular area? And I'll say, have I sold in that area? Yes, I have. Do I routinely do that? No. If you're looking for some specific property, I definitely have someone who sells just in that area, and it would probably be best if you worked with them. Or when it comes to commercial real estate, there are your very straightforward commercial type transactions, but for more complicated type transactions, that's why we have commercial real estate agents, and that's not in my lane. I don't typically go to the tax sales and help investor clients with tax sale purchases, and I will tell that to my clients who are investors. I will say, you know, I am good at and I can help you with this part of it, but what I am not so much involved with is this part of it, because I think otherwise, again, it goes back to expectations. If they're asking you to help in an arena where you're not normally playing in that arena, their expectation is going to be that you deliver. And if that's not what you're going to be able to do, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. And so we talked about managing expectations. So if you say we have two different scenarios here, because there are two different scenarios, and you had one person getting ready to buy a house and you're getting one person to get ready to sell a house. What is kind of like that checklist that you would say for those two different individuals? Like, because obviously one is, you know, completely different than others. Like, do they need to get the house ready in a certain type of way? Like, what are some of those things? So
for a seller, there's always kind of the initial consultation per se, and it's talking through what their goals are, what their timeline is, where they're looking to move. Are they moving out of state? Are they moving locally? Do they already have a home? Are we going to be, you know, looking for a home for them? And then we talk about their home specifically. Do we need to have it measured? Do we need to make sure that we have an accurate square footage? Have they been maintaining the home, or do we need to have the home inspected prior to listing? That is something that sometimes sellers will elect to do. They'll have the home inspected prior to, so that they can have repairs and stuff done before they list. And then talking through pricing and that kind of thing. So that's more of on the listing side. On the buyer side, you know, one of the most important things is understanding not just what you can afford, but what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And so particularly as of late with rates where they are, it's really important for buyers to meet with a lender or a few lenders, get comfortable with one or two lenders, understand what the finances look like first, and then getting a pre-approval letter. If they're cash, we get a proof of funds letter. Then now with our new rules in real estate, prior to showing homes, there's certain documentation and forms that we go over with them and have them sign. And then we start the home search process.
Yeah.
So it does look very different. It differs within each of those categories because if someone has to sell a home in order to buy, that process looks very different than somebody who doesn't have to sell in order to buy.
And I've always heard, don't go buy something big if you're getting a loan, right? Like, just try your hardest. Like, hey, you can wait on the couch. You can wait on the appliances.
Oh, yeah. No, the last thing you want to do is go and get a whole new bedroom suite or, den sofa and chairs or a new car. Or actually, you don't even want to pay off credit cards. It seems like paying off your credit card would be a good thing, but it does affect your loan and your pre-approval status. So just make sure to always check with your lender on what you can or should not do.
So Blair, I've always believed branding builds credibility. What would you say the best brand and how do you build your brand? And obviously everybody's brand is completely different, but how important is that?
It's almost everything. I mean, branding goes back to consistency. And I think no matter what brand you choose, you incorporate that into everything that you do. I feel very lucky that I have the brand that I have, which is Wilson Associates. And our company has done a really good job of, making marketing a top priority and has allowed us to kind of individualize that amongst ourselves, but continue as, you always know if it's a Wilson Associates listing. You always know certain marketing and materials and things like that you'll get. Again, expectations and consistency. So branding is very important.
And I love to say this because in the world, everybody, and you actually kind of hit on this earlier, you don't really per se set a marketing budget. And where I'm going at with this is everybody is always talking about ROI, ROI, which is return on investment, which is good. But I think people forget even the formula before you get that. And when I talk about this very often, using those three letters, relationships of influence, will get you to that, ROI that everybody actually accustomed to. And I say it all the time. I think one of the reasons why you're successful is because of those relationships and you hone in on that. And I think that will get you to that return on investment. So by you not just saying, this is a $300,000 home, I'm only going to put $10 into it.
Right.
That's not who you are.
Right.
But you decide to just put your best foot forward and just kind of put that brand out there.
And whatever it takes. You do what it takes to do a good job and to present every property, regardless of the price point, in the best light that you can to help put your client in the best position that you can.
Yeah. As we get ready to wrap up, I know this market was very much different 5 years ago. What would you say, some market trends that's just kind of happening? Because it's just so much going on. It's flip-flopping. I know some people are saying, my home prices are dropping.
Yep.
I personally don't think home prices are necessarily dropping. I think it's sometimes are going to get compared.
Right. So we have days on market have increased. We have more inventory. So a balanced market is about 6 months of inventory, and we're somewhere in that 4 to 5 month supply inventory. So we are seeing stabilization, of course. For the most part, we're not seeing depreciation, and that's specific to Greenville. I mean, there are other areas in the country that are not in the same situation that we're in. I think a lot of people confuse price reductions with depreciation. And there's a little bit of a dance going on right now with buyers understanding, they do have more power than they used to, maybe not as much as they think they have, but that is changing. And sellers understanding that we are not in the market that we were in 2 to 3 years ago. So balancing that expectation as well, it's really where we are. So people are going back to actually doing inspections. They're actually, requesting repairs. They're actually asking for closing costs, things like that. It's more of a normal market, but we really are not seeing depreciation for the most part.
Just more stabilization, more competitive. It's competitive.
That's right. Buyers have more options. Sellers have to kind of temper their expectations a little bit and understand that, perfectly wonderful homes that may actually be priced just fine are taking longer to sell.
That's what I've kind of noticed. Just I'm not selling my house. I don't plan to sell my house anytime soon. Yeah. But I would talk to some people selling their houses, and like, I'm going to sell my house in 30 days. And I'm like, how much you listing your house for? And they'll say this crazy number. I'm like, well, you do know the pool of people, for one, is smaller for that.
Right.
Two, like, you're not just going to just get your asking price all the time.
That's right.
And you could, but it's realistically, you may have to have the expectation of going down some.
Right.
So I've noticed that people still have this, I call it COVID brain.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I understand you bought your house for that, and you had the expectations of the same, but it's just different. And every year it changes, every month it changes. And one thing I have learned about real estate is constant change.
Yep.
And I guess I'll kind of almost wrap up with this. How do you prepare for that change? Because again, you got laws that change, you got loans that change. How do you personally just get ready for those changes and get your clients adapted to that?
You have to be willing to be flexible and to evolve with the change. For people who are determined to stay in their ways and to not adapt, they will be left behind. Social media, the internet, new rules in real estate, legislation, all of that. You have to learn to adapt in order to move forward. And so if you're adapting, you can help your clients adapt, make them better equipped, set the right expectations, then things run a whole lot more smoothly. And where we are now, 8 months from now, we'll probably be in some different situation. If you're not willing to be flexible and adapt with change, you'll get left behind.
I love that. It's just, we love to say it in the football world, it's a copycat league. If somebody did a play last week and you don't attempt to do it and it worked on the same opponent, you're going to get left behind.
Right.
Or you mentioned social media. I know that some people still like, I don't want to do it. And if you even mentioned, I'm not crazy on social media.
That's right.
But you have a presence there. You just know, like, some people are going to find you there. I love to say in our industry, think about going fishing. You don't have just one bait. Sometimes you don't have one wheeling rod.
That's right.
You find different things. You don't know what's going to bite. You're just, hey, like, what do I have to do in order to adapt to what people want today and how I can serve them in that way well. So
you're exactly right.
I love that. Obviously, I love you, Blair. You're a Clemson Tiger. And you're a diehard Clemson Tiger.
Right.
That's what I love about that, of course. But Blair, truly, it's been good to know you. You were one of the first realtors I talked to when we were getting ready to launch Real Producers. And I remember you told me, you said, you're going to be successful. And that always stuck with me.
Well, and I genuinely mean this. I'm very proud of you and all that you've accomplished. And I mean, you've built this Real Producers empire and have done an amazing thing for our industry here at Local. I mean, to highlight realtors, their families, their vendors. I mean, that's huge. And it's part of growing their businesses and growing their presence. So you've done a great job as well.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we're going to wrap up this first episode. And I love to say this, Blair, you're a top realtor, but I don't think there's nothing that you said that no one can't do. It's just applying it. And just going back to what Nick said, consistency. Yeah. I remember Brent Venables, I know a lot of Clemson people out there. Yeah. He always told me, Robert, you'll always play for me if you can be the model of consistency. Because I know what I'm going to get every single day, and that's reliability. Yep. So definitely appreciate everything. And for everybody who's out there, go like, subscribe, comment on this video. I think Blair shares some really good nuggets out there that just, even if you're not in real estate, things are just going to help you just in life. Till the next time, this is Upstate Real Producers Beyond the Pages.